Welcome back, Freelancers Undefeated Rescue, and we're continuing with the gear showcase series. Today I'm in Storm, and we're going to showcase some Storm gear. Decent amount of people in here. We'll go out and go over some gear. Okay, we are in GM1, and then we are going over, which should be the last of the last seals. So we've gone over pretty much everything, but now we are on Eternal Squall. So, Eternal Squall is a Cataclysm version of Pondering Infinity. They do about the same damage. The recharge is the same, which is a 10, which is a little on the high end. It's not too bad, though. Radius for the blast area, or for the area of effect, is 5. And then, so the difference between these two is this one actually will prime. So pretty much with all of the Cataclysm, almost all of the Cataclysm gear, they will basically prime. Now, here's the thing about the electric effect that it has is it's at 20, so it's not very high. So it takes a little bit, because it's not a very high one, it takes a while to prime the enemies with electricity. But basically, it's an upgraded lightning strike. Combo effect is chain, because it's a storm. That's what their combo effect is chaining the primed effect, and then leaves a field that deals electric damage for about 10 seconds. So basically what's going to happen is, and the way it works differently in Pondering Infinity is, when you land a lightning on the ground, it leaves a field of electricity in that area, and it lasts for about 10 seconds. Just a clarification, in case you've never seen this get used, it can be a little aggressive to the eyes, so if you have sensitive eyes, this is going to be a little bit painful, but we'll showcase it off in GM1. So as you can see, that field remains, and I don't think we're going to be able to prime them very well, because it's GM1 and this does a lot of damage. I am in my test storm, so we shouldn't be any crazy combo numbers. Okay, so let's test it against their shields. Does pretty good, takes down shields, and as you can see, if you hit them in the air, see how that field stays around, and now they're primed. So I can just use whatever to detonate them. But you can so this is a characteristic about it. It's a little bit of peeking. Not necessarily 100% what we're talking about, but it's just nice to know stuff like that. So yeah, as you can see, and I'm not going to focus on it too much because I have sensitive eyes, and this kind of hurts a little bit. It does leave a field behind. The only thing is, and you'll probably see this more in GM3, is the initial blast from it will kind of knock enemies out of the shield, or sorry, out of the radius, so now they're not going to get primed. Because they're like just outside of it, and none of them are being primed right now. Okay. And so they can actually walk into this as well and get primed from it. So that's the nice benefactor to it staying around for about 10 seconds. Alright, so it takes down their shield and does a good chunk of damage. And then because they're in the air, well, they're already dead. So it's good against shields, but it's electric, so no surprises there. Electric is very powerful against shields. So as they're trying to run towards me, they're actually all running into the field upgrades. So if you can kind of kite them into a hallway, you can do a lot of damage against them. Let's see how it does against armored enemies. So about half health, and now they're primed, so I can just come in here, use it again, and detonate it. And now they're all chained with electricity. But as you can see, it kind of like knocked them out. I know it's hard to see because I'm like backed up against the wall. My camera angle is kind of goofy. But pretty good against armored enemies. Not as good as acid or fire, but it's still viable in GM1. Alright, let's see how it does against javelin shield. Alright. And I don't know if you can tell, it's because they're in the field, it's giving them like a tick damage effect. So it's still doing a little bit of damage. It looks like they're just outside. Oh, nope, they got them. Okay. So, we'll hit them again. It should essentially prime them, but as you can see, because they're in the field, it's doing tick damage. And it did combo them. So, pretty good. And they should just go down from that, yeah. No surprises there. So, as far as compared to Pondering Infinity, I don't know why I keep saying Infinity. It pretty much works the same way with the charge, how it's pretty much instant. It has its trajectory, so you can kind of lay it in a certain area. And then it leaves the only difference is it leaves a field behind for it that does like electric tick damage, which isn't all that great. Fire and acid tick damage actually fire damage is probably the best for tick damage, as you can kind of see if you've ever used Binary Star, if you've watched the Binary Star video from the storm. Fire damage does better tick damage, so this isn't bad. But if there are enemies that walk into this area, we're going to suffer this in a second. If they walk into this area, because they're getting that tick damage, it'll also take down their shield, because electricity against shields is very, very powerful. We'll go into GM3 and go over it some more. So we are in GM3, still using Eternal Squall. Anyways, so we'll go over here and showcase it. Alright, nice, a storm. So it doesn't do as aggressive against their shield, but it is giving them tick damage. So it looks like it takes it. So just also to clarify, they are electric, so that's why it's not as aggressive against them. But it takes quite a bit to take them down. However, they are getting primed because they're in that effect. But it's not happening instantly because the effect is so low. We'll just go ahead and take them out. Actually, and that should do him in. Nope. Okay, so let's get over here. Group. So it does about half to them, and it primes pretty much all of them. But as you can see from the blast, it kind of pushed them out. And then, I don't know if you can tell, this guy still got electric effect on him because he walked into the area. And it looks like we chained it over here because we detonated it. So this guy's got it, even though he's not in the actual area, he did get it chained to him. So if they had a shield, probably would have taken that down. Okay. Man, there's a bunch of storms in here today. So yeah, this guy right here, if you look or play back, you can see like he was right here, and then from the initial blast he got pushed out. So that's kind of the downside to this, is because it has like that stagger effect. It will push enemies back out of it, which is kind of unfortunate. But it doesn't always, and you can see they're getting tick damage from just being in the shield, or in the area of effect for the electric. Ground them for a minute to make it a little bit easier. They're kind of hard to deal with when they're flying like that. So as you're kind of seeing from these tankier enemies, I could just, if I have enough charges, I can just keep dropping it on them and keep dropping it on them, keep dropping it on them. Unfortunately, I'm not getting the charges back as quickly as I'd like, so I'm having to use other things to prime. But as you can see, it'll prime just fine. Okay, so the shield went down. This is where it really shines, is in a group like this, and you can see like the individual with the shield, I didn't directly hit them, but it did take their shield down. Nice. So definitely good for crowd control. And then I'm just going to clear out the rest of these guys. So, armored enemies. does okay damage against armored enemies, nothing special, but its electric is usually a lot more viable against shields. Let's see here, we'll clear these guys out and then we'll go back to the armor dude. Alright, so doing pretty good damage, it primes them. Prime both of them. And then as far as like damage in general, it's not doing a whole lot. It does do pretty good tick damage, so it's working away at them. So it has that nice effect on it. So yeah, primes armor enemies, doesn't do a lot of damage. Pretty good combo damage. And then you see, because they're sitting in the area and they're not leaving it, it's doing tick damage to them. And now they're primed again. So that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and just finish them off. All right. So it's just me and the ranger right now. Whoa! He went across the screen almost. All right. So took about a sixth of their shield away, but because it's doing the tick damage against their shield, it's taking a little bit more. So it takes about 3 to take down all their shield, and now it's doing damage against that. Let's see if it combos. It does combo them, even though we couldn't see the combo or if they were primed. They were, and they were under the effect, so we were able to combo them. Nice. So against their armor, it's hard to tell because they're getting the tick damage. We'll wait till they get out. Okay, so does pretty good. It does okay against their overall armor. Nothing special though, because again, lightning is more effective against shields than armor. So. But yeah, you could literally do this. So this is what I'm doing here. Is I'm using black ice. I know, black ice over steam vent. Lols. Mostly because I'm trying to freeze them in place, so I get more effects from the fact that they're frozen now. So they're sitting here, so they're just taking more damage. And then I can hopefully get a charge back and keep them in there. And then I just prime back and forth with my lightning effect and my frost effect. So I'll finish them off with this. This should do them in on its own. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's go over some box checking. Is it efficient? Well, yeah, it's really good. It's not like super efficient like most of your Cataclysm weapons are going to be, or sorry, gear, because it's electric, so it doesn't do a lot of damage. However, it does prime and it does detonate, so it kind of does everything on its own. And then also, it leaves that field behind, so that does a lot of damage over, well, not a lot of damage, but it does damage over time because it has that like initial tick damage. So that makes it very efficient on its own because it just lingers around and does more damage. So yeah, it's definitely efficient. Is it viable? Well, anything that's going to prime or detonate or do both, it's going to be extremely viable, especially because it does both on its own. So yeah, because it does both of them, it makes it extremely viable. And then is it fun? Well, it's to a degree, and I always say this like with a little bit of hesitation because fun is dependent on the end user, right? Throwing down a field of electric, if you can kind of corner them in and get them into a spot where they can't really leave, like a hallway or a lane or something, even when it does the initial blast and it pushes them around, they should still be in that area because the radius is still pretty big for the electric effect. So you really don't have to do too much with it, but it can be negative because if you're out in the open and it hits them and it blows them out of that area because of the knockback, now it's kind of like defeating the purpose of having this like radius of remaining electric effect. So I think it can be fun, but that's because I like to combo with things. So I'll hit a group, knock them back, hopefully one or two will stay in here, and now I can like detonate them with black ice, which is my choice. You could use steam vent, you could use a couple other different things, and then that'll chain effect to freeze all the enemies in the area, and now they're all staying within that radius of the electricity. So they're all getting the electric effect, and then I can just come down and just hit them with electric again to detonate all of them and give them all electric effects, especially ones that have shields. It'll take down their shields really well, or really quickly. Or I could use black ice or steam vent or whatever to pass around that one. So, and then I think it works really well with the storm, because when you're hovering above them, you can really lay it down really well, and the trajectory is a little bit easier. Whereas like with the Colossus, like navigating their trajectory with some of the mortars is a little bit difficult. Even when they're hovering, it's kind of weird. So I'm gonna say for Eternal Squall, that's gonna be a good thumbs up. And plus, because it's a Cataclysm gear piece, you don't have to actually buy it from the store. You can actually get it in the seasonal store with crystals you've earned from running strongholds or seasonal strongholds and seasonal events. So I don't think there's much else to say about this. It's not bad. It's not really that great for the Cataclysm stuff, but it's definitely better than Pondering Infinity because of its Masterwork perk and how it can do multiple things at once on its own. So I don't think there's too much more to say on it. It's really good. The one downside is it has sort of a punishing recharge, which Pondering Infinity does as well. It's not too bad, but and then it doesn't do a lot of damage on its own, but that's mostly because it's electric. But it does really good at taking down shields. So there's some give and take no matter how you look at it. But those are kind of my thoughts on it and what you can kind of do with it. But I think I'm going to end the video here. I'm Defeated Rescue, and I hope to see you guys out in Bastion.